So what ended up happening was my brother died of a drug overdose. I started getting messages from him like, "Hey, Law, it's your dead brother, Jeff." Like it was that. Like he had a New York accent. And so I started realizing it took a while, but long and short is that I could communicate with him and that I could learn from him. And his big message was like, "You're on the same trajectory as me. You need to change." So
Wow.
I did. I quit my job. I mean, it was like such a huge leap into it was a huge leap. And I became a dog trainer. And right away, I started hearing the dogs. And they were like, "We're going to teach you. You listen to us. We're going to teach you." And so animals became my earliest teachers, and dead people became my earliest teachers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to First Contact. I'm your host, Eesha Patel, and today's wonderful guest is Lori Spagna. Now, Lori is a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, mentor, guide. She's a channel, animal communicator, energy healer, visionary, and luminary. That's a lot of wonderful things. She provides intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for soul-centered visionaries and leaders who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment. So, Laurie, welcome. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited as well.
Of course. Now, we officially met on the Portal to Ascension event recently, which was a big event. It was probably the biggest one that I've ever been a part of, maybe yourself as well. And I was really intrigued by just the energy and some of the things that you mentioned. Now, I don't want to give any spoilers. I want to let people hear the story from you. So let's begin a little bit just with the background of who you are and how you got started in this kind of work.
Yeah. Well, the background is I was in corporate America for 20 years out of college and I was miserable and I got really unhealthy and I developed all kinds of unhealthy behaviors, and I just didn't, I would say back then, just like everybody, I was like, I didn't think anything better was possible. So I was like smoking excessively and drinking excessively and yeah, sexing excessively, spending excessively, the whole thing, my thyroid was off, my hair was falling out. I was incredibly overweight. I was going to doctors and, that's their solution was pharmaceutical drugs, like massive, ridiculous amounts of drugs. And nobody thought anything was wrong with any of this. I was like miserable, crying every night and waking up every day miserable. And I never got enough sleep. Like it just everything was wrong. I was six figures in credit card debt. And so what ended up happening was my brother died of a drug overdose. I started getting messages from him like, "Hey, Law, it's your dead brother, Jeff." Like it was that. Like he had a New York accent. And so I started realizing it took a while, but long and short is that I could communicate with him and that I could learn from him. And his big message was like, "You're on the same trajectory as me. You need to change." So
Wow.
I did. I quit my job. I mean, it was like such a huge leap it was a huge leap. And I became a dog trainer. And right away, I started hearing the dogs. And they were like, "We're going to teach you. You listen to us. We're going to teach you." And so animals became my earliest teachers, and dead people became my earliest teachers. But within a year of that, just to kind of get to the what we're going to the meat and the juice of what we'll get into today, or the whatever it's called, the good stuff. What happened was I moved to Maui. My husband was divorcing me because he thought I was like whacked. And he wasn't ready for someone to get healthy. Like he needed a sick wife, not a healthy wife. So I moved to Maui and I started getting very healthy very fast. Like all the alcohol went away, all the pharmaceutical drugs were gone, like almost overnight. All the cigarettes gone. I mean, 20 years of smoking and I just gone almost overnight. What is it? You're gonna need to come here. Sorry, I have a very demanding dog. And
Oh,
yeah, the weight was gone and I started to get trained from my own divine team about like how to it just started coming in, angels, guides, etc. So all of those unhealthy behaviors were gone within 2 years and the weight was gone and I healed my thyroid. And that's when I started sort of really changing. Those were the changes. But I was working with energy. I was learning how to be a healer of my own traumas and the traumas of animals. I was using it to help animals, and the animals, if I was working as a dog trainer, I was helping the humans. In those 2 years in Maui, while I was learning how to use energy, I had, and this is what we'll talk about today, and I'll just leave it at that. What I had a near death, which just was like not anything I was ever prepared for. I had all kinds of incredible, these experiences that it's just so off the charts bizarre. And while you're going through them, it's like what is happening? And of course, it was the first contact experience. So
Yeah.
that was the beginning, in a sense, of the future of what I do now and everything that I now bring forward. So yeah, that's the long and short of
I have
it.
so many questions and all of that. I just want to, for some of our viewers out there, I just want to sort of slow some of these pieces down because I understand that when you go through the awakening, and I was very similar like you, Lori, is I just quantum leaped through the different stages of it, and suddenly I'm channeling, and suddenly these things happening, and I'm accessing dimensions and all of that. But I think sometimes it's people might be thinking like, but how did you learn that? I mean, how did you get started with energy healing? Did you go and like study this somewhere? Did it happen naturally? Did your did the dead people teach you? How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, see what happens. Here's the easiest part of it, and I'll share my personal experience more. But when you start getting aligned, a person starts getting aligned with their true divine path, their soul's true divine agenda, it just starts to happen, right?
Mm,
It does. You suddenly are in the right places at the right time with the people that you need to learn from or heal with or resolve something. It starts to fall into place. But it wasn't all butterflies and rainbows. It was hard. I mean, my dog died of like cancer because I was processing so much anger, right? Because cancer is the energy of anger or resentment. There was just so many things that happened. But all right, how did I get into it? Initially it was like I was just like, I knew my life was a mess. The brother died, and I just started paying attention. It was like a whole year of like seeing things, hearing things, getting messages, and unpacking it like I was self-training. I didn't know. I'd like I just kept paying attention. Like, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this. Am I making this up? Is this real? If this is real, I need some more evidence. And I would get a lot of evidence, and I'd follow the evidence. Okay, if that was real, please validate it. Please tell me if that was real or did I make that up? Like that kind of stuff. That's how it started. But once I got into Maui, the initial thing was I got my Reiki master, which is a great place to start with
yeah.
Reiki or some kind of basic level energy healing modality. To me, Reiki is very basic. It was awesome. It changed my life. It cleared me out. It was like massive emotional, mental, energetic detox. That's how Reiki helped me. And then I was using it to help animals as a healer. And I was using it to help the humans because I was doing dog training in Maui. That was a great starting point. I was also going to meditation circles because Maui had tons of that. So I was going to meditation circles. I was going to like, oh, the other thing I was doing, like anyone could do this. I was, I found myself in like sacred dance. So any form of, you can look this up, 5 rhythms, sweat your prayers, sacred dance, sacred movement. I was going there and I was just learning about like movement, and there was so much awesome like energy flowing and energy movement. And the biggest thing was I somehow found my way to this master teacher who game changer. I was studying with different teachers, but this game changer master teacher, he had spent most of his life in the Himalayan mountains up until that point, studying how to use energy. So I was in his like classrooms, and we were learning how to throw energy and like knock each other over with energy, and how to use energy to move it through the body, and how to use it for healing, and how to use energy to activate dormant parts of our brains, and how to, affect the physical world, like flip tables, and like we were just playing with it. So that was the game changer. But those things are available to people. You can find out about those things. You just do a search in your area for those kinds of events. Meditation is definitely the opening door, a huge part of it.
That's incredible. And I resonate with so many pieces of what you've shared as well, because I just had so many similar experiences in the sense of, um, like, I don't know if you'd use the same word to describe it, but it was like those synchronicities that people start
Mhm.
to flow into. So, like in my instance, I was very early stages of awakening, and someone literally left a book on the floor that I nearly tripped over, and it said free to take. And it was like the perfect book that I needed, but it was like being in that flow and showing up and being in the right place at the right time. And then it was the books, it was teachers at certain points, like all of the things that you need to get to where you are. I have an experience of meeting a very very advanced person to teach me as well. And so having had those experiences and then going, okay, like now that you have that, there's that piece of having to come back. I always say this to my audience, coming back down the mountain, like coming back off the Himalayas and down the mountain to then do something with that. So once you had those experiences, what did you feel like was your calling to bring forward into the world?
Well, let me just say this. I really had no idea because one of the big things was I was having all these amazing like apparitions. I had like this apparition, like a ghostly apparition, but it was like Jesus. And he was like standing at the wall, like in front, and he was like waving his arm, like come through this door. Like it was a wall. I was like, I can't come through. But I really understood. He said, like, come, like you're moving into a new dimension, right? And I mean, I had this time where these angels, these angelic beings, like they were literally like they were real. My eyes were open, coming out of the sides of my eyes. Like I could see them, and they were angelic beings that were so huge, like fluttering rainbow lights. The reason those things happen to us is because we are meant to come into a state of knowing. And I
Mm,
know that you have this, right? Because you're explaining it. When you have direct experience, it doesn't matter who tells you something's not true
right.
because you're beyond belief. You know. So these things start happening. And here's what's so important because I will get to your question of the coming down the mountain thing. But what's most important for people to understand is that your connection with source, whoever you are, your source, your divinity, your team, it will not be denied to you, period. It will not be denied. It's only ourselves who deny it. So when we finally go seeking it, that's why those synchronicities happen. And by the way, you're right, because law of synchronicity is a universal law. It's real. So when you start looking for your own divinity, however you define that, your connection with your source, your unification with God, with all that is, whatever feels right for you or to you, your higher team, your higher self, your highest trajectory, it will not be denied. The only issue is, will you be able to not only kind of follow the breadcrumbs, so to speak, in the human experience, but stay the course because there will be obstacles and hurdles. There will be challenges to overcome. There will be traumas to heal. There will be parts of you that you don't necessarily want to look at or face. And those things can be blockers and stoppers for people. Or some people, they just get as far as they want to go. They're happy, that's it, so it's up to us. But that said, how did I know to come to your question? I really didn't know. I was lost for a while. Like those first 2 years in Maui, I was pretty lost. Like I lost everything. I lost everything. Not only was I coming out of a divorce, but my dog had died and I had no money. I mean, I was coming out of the six figures on a credit card debt, and even though my team was in the higher realms was teaching me to forgive the banks, and I was getting like letters of forgiveness from banks at the same time, I had no money. Like I was learning to manifest because I had no money. I was starting to manifest like empty gas tanks, like getting more gas in them. Like I'm living in la la land because I had no other option, right? I wasn't functioning well in the physical world at that time. So when I finally came back to the mainland, it was definitely like what's that word? Like a hard landing, because I honestly thought that the rest of the world had progressed with me. I did not understand that I was on an accelerated pace because it was all 2000 pre 2012. So I thought like everybody was waking up with me. I thought we were all going to be having I wasn't even thinking about it. But what I will say is that because when I was on Maui, I had a first contact. That was such a game changer too. And I was playing with like energy that whole time and starting to do it with the few people that I knew and the animals that I was working with. I just that was my new way of being. That's what I'm saying. So I didn't know any other way. The transformation was so radical and so dramatic within me in that small window of time, so accelerated. I really didn't know anything else. Starting the business and the career out of it, that was slow and over time, right? I had to find my right voice. I had to keep doing healing. There was a lot of trauma healing
Yeah.
along that journey. There was a lot of painful experiences that I still had to resolve. So that was part of building the business because I was sharing that, sharing everything I was learning is almost as fast as I was learning it because it was so good, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Right.
that's a feeling I can also resonate with. Very,
Right.
very going from
Yes.
um like an awakening to sharing within, I think, just a matter of weeks. It's just like so fast, you know. And I wonder
Yes.
if that's why you had to be in Maui, because the energy of Maui is quite unique in and of itself, right? I don't know if you'd be able to have that same experience somewhere else where maybe the energy is a bit more dense. It's almost like you got taken into this location, put in this little bubble, but then you still have to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like that was a divine appointment, especially once I had the first contact experience, because that was my star family in a sense, or the beings, who were representing as star family races, where it was like a part of me that was with them all along was just unifying with the part of me that was here in Earth, and that braided unification process of, I guess you could call it future version of self or another aspect of self unifying. That happens so fast, but that could only happen in an isolated place like
Yeah.
Maui. So to me, that's all divine appointment and part of what my unique mission and purpose was for, incarnating at this time.
So tell us the story of this contact. Is this the same as the near-death experience, or are they two different stories?
No, two different. Oh, well,
Okay.
I'll tell you the near death first because it's really fun and good. Like it's not like your traditional mainstream near death, right?
Right.
So what happened was when my dog died, I was so heartbroken. I was just so heartbroken. I just wasn't prepared. I couldn't handle it. And so I showed up to my class on Thursday night with that master. Just, I was so broken. And I knew that he himself had had 7 documented cases of near death. So I already knew that he could help me. So I was like, please, please, can you just help me know where she's at? Like, please help me know where she's at. So he put me in the middle of the room and there's like 20 people around, it's like a whole circle of people that I worked, played with every Thursday night. And they were all around me. And all I know is he counted to 3, he snapped his fingers, and I was, as far as I know, like dead for all I knew. And the whole physical reality was gone. It wasn't an astral travel. It was that this is how I've unpacked it since. What I understand is that he just knew how to activate using energy, the DMT in my brain, which for anyone who doesn't know what DMT is, it's just a chemical that the brain releases when a living being dies, a person or an animal. The brain releases DMT in the brain, and that helps them to let go of their body. It creates a bliss-like state where they are able to release the body. And this is my human language, but science might define it slightly different, but that's what it is. So in any case, as far as I knew, I was dead. I was like, I didn't even know where I was. All of reality just was gone, physical reality. But I came into this knowing that I was at one. I could hear all thoughts. I could see, in a sense, see everything and everything that ever was. And at the same time, I knew that I wasn't seeing everything that ever was, right? But in that moment, then my dog was with me, and she was just saying, Mommy, I love you. I love you so much. She was saying, please don't worry. And I was so like euphorically blissed out. And I had other like so-called dead relatives coming. I was so euphoric. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I just want to be here. And I remember the beings around me were saying, like, well, you have to go back. You have two other dogs waiting for you. You have to feed them. And I was like, oh no, they'll be fine. Like, that's how it is. Everything will be fine. Oh, they'll be fine. They don't need me. Everything will be fine. I just want to stay here. This went on. I would assume it was about 2 or maybe even close to 3 hours because the class was about 3 hours every night, every Thursday night. So, but at a certain point, he snapped his fingers, my master. He snapped his fingers, he counted three, snapped his fingers, and I was right there again, like in the room, as if I had always been there. So I don't really entirely know everything about it. I just know that's what my experience was, and it wasn't like physical, like all physicality was gone. But I will say that, and it's called, he calls it a little death. That's what he calls it, a little death. But what I know is afterwards, everybody in the room took their two fingers and they would just touch me. That's all they had to do. And their bodies were in like sort of semi-fun kind of, some kind of convulsions, but also like fetal positions, hysterical laughter, blissed out, euphoric. Why? Because that's the way that energy is. It's beyond love. It's beyond love. It's so euphoric and just, you can just, it's so powerful that all you need to do is just, and your body goes into these kinds of like experiences of like expunging what I would call density, right? All the heaviness of experience, and is taking in more lightness of being, more enlightenment, right? It was so awesome. So that was a game changer for me. But what happened, and then I'll pause here. What happens when you have like a so-called near death and the light that you are as a being lights up interdimensionally, other beings become aware of you in ways that they weren't before. You know this. I know you know this. So when that happens and they become more aware, now they're like, oh, what's this being going to do with now that they've got so much more consciousness. So I think that in a sense in the physical reality is what triggered the first contact experience. Even though
Right.
I also think that the first contact experience was a divine appointment of sorts, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And you've reminded me actually of something back in my early days as well. When I had this expansion of energy, one of the first things that happened was the beings that were around kind of figured out, oh, look, she's awake, you know? And so
Yes.
I had this studio that I started in Perth many, many years ago now. When I first started up that space, the energy there was really dense and there was some spirits on the land there that they just needed to go home. And so they started getting my attention because I think they'd figured out, because at that point I'd started doing these DNA activations that the Acturians taught me. And so when I was doing all of this stuff, they go, oh, this one, she'll listen to us. And so all these spirits used to come in, and I had to do so much clearing on the land for about, I think, 6 months. I just cleared it all out because they knew that I'd be the one to pay attention to them. So I absolutely
Yes.
understand what you mean about when you awaken and they start to see, it's like they see this light going up and they get attracted to that. The beings get
Yes.
attracted to that. It's fascinating.
And that
Um,
makes so much sense when you say that. I totally get that. Yeah, that's very cool.
it does,
And you
right?
basically, because that's part of the journey too, because it's part of like, is this person, what are they going to use their new abilities with? Like, how are they going to
Yeah,
use it? Are they going to use it for in service to the light? Are they going to use it in some other way? Is it going to be self-serving? And so you're presented with opportunities to demonstrate who you are and how you're going to be in this new elevated state. And that is a sort of to a certain degree, there is a definer. How will that will shape your course going forward, right? Because
I've never thought about it like that, because to me, I think it was just obvious. I was like, well, these spirits are trapped and they need to go home. So there was only one course of action, which was send them home. And I did a cleansing ceremony and it was quite chaotic actually. Like, I had this belt that I was wearing at the time and it fell off and just like weird stuff happened. And but when you say it like that, I'm like, yeah, I guess there could have been other options in that as well. To me, it was just like it was obvious that service was the way to go. I
yeah.
think that's just
but
who
but
I
it's
am.
part of how you earn. I'm using this as an example, but it's kind of like part of how you earn your wings.
Right. Oh,
You're
it makes
demonstrating that you are being kind of responsible by choosing a path that's aligned with service, because
yeah.
as these abilities grow, as you start to they come slowly at first, but as they grow and you utilize them in service, more and more of your abilities start to blossom.
Oh, that's such a
To
beautiful
me, your
reminder.
story demonstrates that.
Yeah, yeah. Would you be able to replicate that experience with your master? Like what he did to you, would you be able to do that?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know because I suppose if I attempted or if there was reason, I don't feel like there's anything I can't do if it serves the light, if it somehow is in service to the will of the divine for the person or animal involved. Then I feel in that sense unlimited because then it's like, okay, this is what's being called for or this is what's being asked, and if it's serving, is it possible, show me how, like how do we orchestrate that, make it happen? And then there's no directions I'm never not given if that's the case,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? When because my work now is truly my role at this time is really truly to serve what I call, the divine or God's plan for lighted creation. And you don't have to like that word, but there is an intelligent source. And we're not talking about like a Santa Claus in the sky here. We're talking about there is an intelligent consciousness that is even beyond just consciousness, intelligent, organized consciousness that has a will and a plan for this game known as physicality. And that plan is a plan of lighted creation, for lighted creation, meaning all of us, all of existence. So to me, my role is to serve that source and its plan. So when I'm helping any of my clients or students, if whatever they need, then that will be done. As long as they're willing, if they're willing, because that's always the driver's seat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not even anymore about like, what do I know how to do or what don't I know how to do? It's more like, all right, infinite source, you're willing something for this person based on their requests or their needs and their free will choice to receive, accept, and allow it. Let's make this happen. And how do we do that? And let's do it now in the most benevolent, best ways, right? And so it will be.
I love that. I've had a lot of different guests on the show. I did have one lady, Zenka Kara, you might know her from Lightnet. She talks about the spoon bending. And so when you
Mm.
mentioned today the table flipping, I thought, man, we've got to get you guys together in a room and you can be bending spoons and flipping tables. And it just sounds like a real party, right?
It's easier than you think. It's so much easier than you think. The issue is more about having people in the room who support and assist the others in getting beyond any form of doubt or disbelief.
Right. Yeah.
It's only the energy of doubt or disbelief that ever interferes or blocks.
Yeah.
Skepticism, cynicism, those energies will always block, always.
Yeah.
That's
And
why
we
for
find that
years oh, sorry, go on, you go.
I was just saying we find the same thing in contact work. Like when you're going out and doing a sky watch, like a CE5 or something, if you have a lot of disbelievers, I mean, it's a similar sort of concept, right?
Yes. People
Yeah.
don't realize because all that stuff is just energy. Everything's energy.
Yeah.
Everything's energy. So skepticism and cynicism are energies that will, by default, by definition, they'll block things.
Yeah.
I've said for years, I really have no desire to interact with that kind of energy because they're not ready,
Yeah.
right? Wonderment. That's good. Wonderment. Like, I just wonder. I'm totally open. Inquiry, like honest, sincere inquiry. I'm so curious. I really want to better understand or know what's available. Now that's nice energy to play with because then floodgates open.
Yeah. I love that.
Mhm.
So let's go now to your first contact experience. Tell us all about that.
Yeah. So, well, when I was working with this master, the thing he would teach us to do all the time, he would say, like, don't sleep at night, meditate through the night. And he would teach us particular practices that were like sleeping meditations, but you were awake, right? We were awake. So I lived on a golf course in Maui, in Pukalani. And so I would go sit on the golf course, on the backs, most of the time on my back porch, overlooking the golf course overnight, and I'd meditate there. And this one particular night, somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, I opened my eyes in the middle of a meditation. So I was completely lucid. I wasn't sleeping. And there was circular, very low to the ground, circular light move. It wasn't just a light. It looked like a star, but it was beaming like colors. in a circular motion. And back then I was so oblivious. Like I did not understand that there were like good ones and bad ones, so to speak, or ones that are benevolent and ones that are malevolent. Back then, all I thought was like, oh, 2012 was coming in a few years, or however many years it was away. And, I thought they were here to help. So I was like in awe. I was like, oh my God, I've heard about the ships that are coming to help. And if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Like, so, right? That's what, but now understand, I was already doing telepathy. I was already doing animal communication, telepathy. I was already developing my psychic abilities. So I knew I was telepathically communicating with them. And at the same time, I had almost like in my inquiry or in my like innocence, wasn't expecting anything. It's just so, but all of a sudden, boom, into like just immediately, I was somehow like teletransported on ship, for lack of a better word, because that's the only word I know, right? But it was like I was now in a different physical state. So I wasn't physical carbon anymore. Like I was what we would call like crystalline or plasma, right? Different, but it was real. I was physical, but not physical like we know. And I was in the ship and I had the ability to move about freely. There were cameras everywhere. I was able to see this one, like, I guess you would call it operating. I don't know what kind of camera room. There were all cameras there. And there was like tall man in there, male figure, who I would now identify as Palladian, but then I didn't know. A good example, he had, he looked like it's the character. This it's so weird to say this because I think it's kind of funny, but anyway, it doesn't matter. He had long, tall, blonde hair, long, tall, lean guy, blonde looking hair, blue eyes, right? Like I would identify him as Palladian. But I really didn't pay much attention to him. He was watching all the cameras. I was able to walk down a long, like hallway corridor. All the doors would open like on Star Trek. You just stand in front of them and they open. I got into this room that was kind of like a stadium type of room. I walked through that room. There was a woman there who I identified and at the same time couldn't. Like I knew her, but I didn't. And I remember I said, what is this for? Like it was a stadium. She's like, this is where we keep all our kids. And she was like, do you want to go back there? And I was like, no, I don't. She was like, good. She was very pleased that I said that. I didn't want to go back there. And in the moment, I was like, well, why am I in here? Like, I just didn't understand. So I was like, I wanted to go home. She said, that's good. Fine. You can go home. And she asked if she could, at the time I had no idea, like chip me, but that's what she did. She put a chip in there. And then the next thing I knew, I was just back on my doorstep, like on my porch. Like, that's crazy, right? The next day, I was so angry. I remember being so angry. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't know, I didn't understand what happened. My arm I could feel it. It was like, I just didn't like the experience. I didn't understand. And I would say for the next, I don't know how long, but it was a while. It was at least a few weeks. I was getting all these like, I would call them like downloads, like just stuff going across my mind, like not like a computer screen, but symbols and signals and messages. My brain could not make sense of any of it. And I would ask every night, like, what is this? What is this? And I would be told, you'll know when the time comes. So now I get it, right? It was just everything that was upgrading me, that was, in a sense, integrating that version of myself, which I resonate with as like a star being, a star seed, star being from the stars, that version of me that was integrating with this very human version. I call myself a braided star seed. And it's just terminology, right? But at the same time, it's how I resonate. And after that, that's when I started doing DNA activations too. I totally get how important those are. Like, I love that you're doing them because they're such an important part of this work. And I think that's why so many of us got these kinds of weird, like, downloads and things like that, because it enabled me to start doing it without ever having to learn. I never had to learn it. I didn't have to study. I just started doing it first for my dogs. And I was like, oh my God, that dog just jumped like a 6 foot how did that dog do that? And then I started asking like people to come over from Maui, just like 4 or 5 people. And I'd be like, okay, let's do these and tell me what's happening. Like, because I was just playing with it. And they'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I had so much energy last night, or wrote my book last night, or oh, this thing's happened, or that, it's just so amazing. So anyway, that's where it all started. Long
Wow.
story.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. Um, I guess I mean the bit that I want to sort of go into from here. First of all, I'm curious as to why you came out of it feeling angry. Is it just because it was unknown, or like did you feel like you didn't consent to the chip, or like what else was going on?
It wasn't that I hadn't integrated the experience.
Okay.
So I knew that something happened that I didn't feel like I fully agreed to before. Yeah. But
Right.
nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like anyone had me on a table or like any of those horrible things. I'll say that I did a lot of regression work over the years, a lot of meditation, a lot of inquiry, a lot of working with my own divine team. So it wasn't like anything happened against my free will. It was more that I didn't understand. I didn't have the whole picture. And the next day, I felt the kind of invasion in a sense of like, I'm sitting on my porch, like, what the F? So it was more like that. And I remember being angry that first of all, I was very angry in Maui anyway. I mean, I was just angry because I was processing all the injustice of reality.
Yeah.
I was processing when you step also, not to go into the whole conspiracy stuff, but when you start waking up and you start realizing a lot of that stuff that's been done, which we don't even need to go down that rabbit hole, it's hard to process that. And I was processing anger at 20 years in corporate America, feeling like I was forced, and an ex-husband who's divorcing me because what? I'm trying to get healthy. Like all those things were already in me. And
Mm,
now I'm having this first contact experience with someone sticking something in my arm. I don't know who they are. I wouldn't have even called it first contact. I didn't even get it. Like, and I was angry because I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I was like, living alone in Maui. I didn't know anybody. I had no money, I had nothing. So all that stuff I had to process through. But I
yeah.
will say that as I started to realize how I was able to help people, as I started to realize that I could heal animals. I mean, I was working with animals like just on the side of the road who were like wounded, and I just pull over and I just start doing it. Like what you were saying, you just suddenly realize you can do things that you never knew you could do that can help. That was making me happy. That was fueling me. And the excitement of being able to make a difference. And then also because my psychic gifts were coming online. I'll never forget this one night. And I know I'm going off on tangents because you're giving me the time to do it. But I was in a bar with these two women from the Thursday night group where, we went to a bar afterwards and we were having drinks. And I mean, like, I didn't even drink anymore that much. So, like, one cup of beer made me drunk. But we had that, and I was just giving a psychic reading to one of the women. I was like telling her all these things about this relationship she was in, and I'm defining all this stuff, like describing the house that she lives in, and all the things going on, and the thing with the guy. And she's sitting there like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I know what I'm getting. I mean, I know what I'm getting. This is so weird. And we're in a bar, so I'm like, I'm not drunk, but maybe it's the alcohol. I don't know. Anyway, I go home. I get home, not in the door 5 minutes. The other woman calls me up and she's like, Lori, I couldn't say it in there in front of her, but everything you got was for me. Everything you described. Like, so, okay, the reason I tell that story is that was what was curtailing all the anger, because even though I was processing through the emotional wrongness of this reality, because when you start waking up to the fact that you're living in a dream and all this stuff's happening, it's like you have to process through that, right? But at the same time, because all these gifts were coming online, there was so much amazement and so much realization how much wonderful things were happening, how incredibly like powerful and effective this stuff was to help. So both things were happening. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm glad you've touched upon it because I think, people have their awakenings in so many different ways. For some people, it's a blissful experience. Like you go from one reality to another and it's like, wow, this is cool, and you're sort of just in that. And for other people, it's confusing and you get lost. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, so for anyone who's watching this, who's maybe at that stage right now, I just want them to know that it's okay and that just sit in that, like really sit in that, because sometimes we don't see the whole picture until years
Yeah.
back, and then you go, okay, I can see the gifts in the way that it happens. So yeah, I'm really glad that we've really brought this up and gone into it. Um,
Yeah.
Laurie,
I mean, one other thing about that, if I can, if it's all
yeah.
right, because I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think one of the biggest mistakes or challenges in the whole like love and light movement, even in the star seed movement, in the awakening journey, is this idea that everything is supposed to be all positive all the time,
Mm,
and that everybody's supposed to just love each other. And I think I just want to call that's bunk. Like it's a hard journey. It's not all love and light all the time. It's not all law of attraction positive all the time. If you if you want it to be that, you'll hit a dead end. In other words, you can have that, but then you won't reach the depth of your capacity for incredible fulfillment, deep fulfillment. You
mm,
won't reach the capacity for what your soul's capable of. You won't fully blossom into the magnificence that you really are, because we are all magnificent beings with incredible potential, unlimited potential. And I'm not talking just human potential, like I'm talking about godlike abilities and talents that we can completely transform not only our lives for the better, but the state of reality on earth. However, if we just get to the point where we're just going to be like pleasantly happy in the mediocrity of life here, that's fine. Lots of people, that's fine. But if you really want to get to the greatness, the magnificence, the brilliance of who you are, you have to uncover things that are much deeper, more real. And that means you're going to have to look under, what we call the shadow aspects. And that's not all pretty all the time. It's not all love and light. And again, just circling back to this whole like love and light movement that it's supposed to be all positive butterflies and rainbows all the time. I think the love and light movement does a real disservice because it is a form of spiritual bypassing.
mm,
And it actually inflicts more pain when someone expects everyone to be happy and joyful all the time. So that's why I share openly about the traumas that I had to work through, because I know that there is not a soul on this earth that's not working through traumas. It's just that most people are doing it privately and afraid to share it publicly. And I know for me, I shared it publicly, and the people who weren't doing the work would shame me for it or judge me. And the people who are embrace it and recognize how significant and valuable it is to do that inner work, because it is where true transformation comes.
mm. It's so well put. I'd like
Mm.
to get practical now. And I think it's important that we always bring it back to what can we do right here, right now? Like, yes, it's great to have these amazing experiences and reconnect with star family and, do the activations and all of that. What's something that people can do on a daily or regular basis that's simple, straightforward, that's going to really move the needle on their vibration and their ascension?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things. Number one, unplug from technology as much as you can. Get out into nature, get real sunlight and real connection to earth. Practice being still and quiet without interference of like overstimulation in the external world. So again, nature, quiet places, get comfortable in the silence, get comfortable listening to your own thoughts, get comfortable hearing and seeing what you might miss, get comfortable being able to see and perceive what you never thought you were able to see or perceive, including things like lights that move, or it's all available. It's not being hidden from us. It's that we're not utilizing our extrasensory potentials. So start getting comfortable in the stuff that's not like that's still quiet and, in nature, unplugged, etc. Learn different breathing techniques and breathing practices. Learn learn how to access your dormant potentials, such as other brainwave frequencies. I mean, that's something I teach always. Get into meditation circles, energy healing circles, hang out with high vibe people, and know this: there is no way you can hang out with high vibe people if you're not going to become one. So ask how you may be of service. How can you contribute? Start thinking from service. How may I serve and contribute in this world? How may I serve and contribute to the betterment in this world? Whether it's cleaning up beaches, it doesn't matter, because a service-based heart is a heart and a being that will get on the path to joy. Service is the fastest path to joy and ultimate fulfillment. It is where joy comes from. It is through service and contribution that joy is birthed through us. So those are some basic, simple things. And one other thing I will add in, so important. I mean, yes, start paying attention to what you put in your body. Like, get rid of artificial dyes, chemicals, artificial sweeteners, diet stuff, pink packets, blue packets, all diet soda, all that stuff is poison. Pay attention to what you're putting in your body, because your body is the vehicle for consciousness to pass through. And I mean, you don't have to have a body to be conscious, but if you want to live in this world, you need a high frequency vehicle. So that does matter. Get rid of all the chemicals in your house, get rid of the chemicals in your laundry detergent, all that stuff. Start cleaning out your bathroom for anything that's not, if you can't eat it or at least can't pronounce it, don't be putting it in or on your body. All right, these are the whole list of things, but above all, if you don't know how, get with a mentor, because no, you do have it within you, but it's like anything. Doing it on your own takes 20 times longer. The reason I had an accelerated journey is because I was one of the people on this earth who was meant to do it the hard way, unfortunately, to do it alone. I don't know, maybe I didn't always have to do it that way, but thank God I had that, like some of the teachers I referred to, the master and other teachers. But get with a mentor, get with a coach who will help you accelerate your journey and who will support you, because weird things do happen. Weird things that will make you think this shouldn't happen. And if you don't have a master or someone working with you that kind of can help you be like, yeah, that's energy moving. That's normal when your body's doing this, or whatever it is, get the support of other people. Community is resonance and entrainment. This is what I'm saying. So put yourself around high vibe people and get coaching and support. Really important.
100% echo that. I think it's one of the biggest game-changing decisions. A lot of people say, and this is probably important to speak into, they say things like, oh, we all have everything within us, so why should I get a mentor? Well, we do have everything within us, but your capacity is limited by what you've been taught, beliefs you've picked up, the kind of childhood that you had. There's so many things. And if you don't have the possibility and the potential, it's that idea of you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know that flipping tables is possible, you might never experience that in your life. But if you work with a mentor and you see other people doing it, and they're having these experiences, and you're doing DNA activation, now suddenly you're in a space where the possibility is expanded. No one's going to flip that table for you. You're still going to do it yourself with your own energy. You still have to walk your own path, but it's that togetherness that I think really supports that. And I just don't think we're here to walk ascension alone. I don't want to do it alone. What's the point of getting to 5D if I'm by myself? I want to see my bodies with me.
Exactly. And here's the other thing, just to dovetail on what you're saying, is that what people don't really understand with regard to energy is every being is in their vibrational bandwidth. Yeah. The only way you can get out of your vibrational bandwidth, the only way, is either some kind of trauma happens, which I had trauma happen. I had a near death, but I was already in vibrational resonance with my master and the energy workers that was allowing me to have breakthrough, right? So either some kind of trauma happens. The initial trauma was my brother died. The next trauma was my dog died. But some kind of trauma happens that shakes you up to such a degree that everything is questioned. I had a trauma in a sense, you could say Reiki was an energetic upliftment, right? Or the other thing is you get an energetic shifting, upliftment. The only way you can get an energetic upliftment, the only way is to be in resonance with someone whose energy can uplift you. And I'm sorry if people don't like that, but you are trapped in your own vibrational bandwidth until you are in resonance with frequencies of energy that can elevate you. And that is point of fact. This is why we call on angels. This is why we call on guides. This is why we call on ascended masters, especially in the earlier phases, because we're still understanding that they're at resonance, they're at energetic frequencies that are beyond the human energetic being. This is why we do meditation. Otherwise, you could just think your way to it. And
Exactly.
just one last piece on this is that real spiritual growth cannot be learned in a book. It cannot be learned by listening to a podcast. It cannot be learned by watching a program on Gaia TV. That is not how spiritual growth works. It cannot be done through pulling a tarot card. I'm sorry. It is done through direct experience and union with source, with the infinite, with some aspect of your own eternal ever being that is bringing you into more union and oneness with that source through direct experience. Nothing in a book will ever do that for you. No podcast, no TV show. So the only way to get into direct experience is through some form of energetic transformational process. That's why DNA activations are so powerful, because they start energetically transforming the being from the inside out and awakening more of the dormant potential that is within.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I think this answers the question of, so many people say, oh, well, we have everything within, so I don't need a mentor, I don't need guides, I don't need galactic guides. And I said, that's great. Have you looked at the world around you? Because if that worked, we would be out of poverty. We would be out of that suffering, and we're not. Why? Because of exactly all the things that you've just said. So, for people out there who are watching this is your call to action. Do the thing. Get a mentor. There's plenty of good ones. Lori, myself, probably anyone on this show that I've had, they're all excellent people. Whoever you resonate with, I think that's where you need to lean in and go for it. Lori, with the few minutes that we have remaining, I would love to know, what is something that people can do at that more advanced level? Like, say, for example, I wanted to activate my DNA right now. Is there a simple process that you could talk us through that would allow people to give it a go?
Well, I mean, I teach different processes, and I don't think you can teach it in 5 minutes. I think a lot of times that's one of the things people are looking for is they want a pill. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's not necessarily something you can learn in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. But I mean, I would say one of the things you can do right away is just learn how to breathe through the heart, right?
Mm.
The heart has brain matter. The heart, we don't think that this is a breathing apparatus. And yet, from an energetic point of view, it can take in all kinds of energy because it's magnetic center. So just by learning to breathe through the heart, which is an easy thing to start practicing, just practice it.
It's beautiful. I
And
love it.
then the other thing I would say, and this is a big one, is that because when you start understanding the magnetic capacity within you, through breathing through the heart, and you start understanding how that immediately starts to, you see, people in the earlier stages, they won't be able to feel it. They'll say, nothing's happening. I don't know. I don't, in earlier stages, but you ask for more advanced stages. So once you start really feeling how quickly you can activate your own magnetic energy, your own magnetic center, then you start learning to call in the energy that you desire. What is the energy that you desire? What is the energy that you most desire to experience?
Oh, for
Any
me
energy.
personally?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm experiencing it.
Okay. But just for the people who are listening, how about divine excitement or
Yeah.
divine enthusiasm or divine inspiration? How about divine peace?
Peace.
How
I was
about
gonna say, I think
divine
peace is the
harmony?
a lot of people are looking for, because even if they say
Yes.
they want abundance or they want whatever, it's like at the core of that, what they're really wanting
Yes.
is to just sit. So once they have the money, once they have the house, once they have, it's like, what's that thing that they're really seeking? And I think it's the peace for a
It's
lot of people.
divine peace,
Yeah.
also divine harmony. If you have divine harmony, all your inner organs, everything within you is working in harmony. What does that mean? Yeah, if they're all working in harmony, it's health, right?
Mm.
Okay, so understand all those things are energy. What is peace? What do they think they're looking for? They don't know. They have this idea. What's peace? Okay, it's a state of being that is brought about by understanding how to work with energy and bring it into the body, that energetic frequency of divine peace, which it's so easy. And once you learn how to call it in and expand it out, and if you allow yourself right now, you'll feel it because it's so easy for me now. Just let
Mm.
yourself, you can feel it. It's so effortless to start moving energy and expanding it around you and being the very energy of the thing that you want to experience. Once you start understanding that everything's energy, we're becoming energetic beings. We always were. We just didn't know how to be the energy that we most desire. That's an advanced practice.
I love it. And I think the ones who are watching this who are at that next level, they'll feel the transmission that's just
Mhm.
gone out, which is
I mean,
wonderful.
it's just so simple, right? But give me a half an hour, you'll be blissed out. I mean, it's so easy. It's so easy, but it's not like a pill, right?
Yeah.
It takes
And it
it,
takes work.
it
And
is
there's
a
a
practice.
dedication aspect to that too, right? I mean, even if they come and they, and that was a beautiful transmission for a couple of minutes, but to really sit in that and settle in that and for that to become your new vibration, it's a daily practice, right? People are going to have to really commit to that and really, really make it their new reality. So,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. It's a practice. That's why we call it discipleship. We're
Yeah.
discipling ourselves to the practice because we recognize that through the practice of utilizing the energies of the divine and bringing them in and anchoring them into this physical reality, by doing that, that becomes the energy that we experience.
Mm.
Right? This is like the ultimate manifesting because you might think you're looking for the car or the house or the whatever, right? The abundance, the prosperity, but really it's true. You're looking for the energy of the experience that creates the experience in the physical world that you most desire.
Hmm.
It's all energy.
I love it.
Mm.
As we look forward into where humanity is going, does your spirit team have any final message for us today?
Well, we could do a whole channeling on that, right? Because I
We'll have
channel
to
a
get
group
you
called the
back again for a
Collective,
whole
right?
second session.
We could do that. But I will say, we're creator beings. So even though all that's been created is already created and already exists, the creator part of our beingness is by becoming energetically conscious to the experience we want, like what we've been talking about. But when you talk about what's ahead for humanity, look, we're entering into what's called the 9 year in the year ahead. It's going to be the year of the snake. We are entering into massive accelerated transformation. And it's going to trigger massive amounts of awakening. We don't need 8 billion people to be on the path of enlightenment for the domino effect. The domino effect's already started. The 100th monkey effect, which is like instant awakening in a sense, the domino effect's already started, but the ripple effect. But for the 100th monkey effect, that's what we're now looking at. What possibility? How is that possible for humanity, for the whole to wake up when 8 billion people are still asleep? I mean, what do we got? 8.5 billion people. If we're lucky, if we're lucky, 1 billion is, I don't even know. I haven't asked lately the higher realms, but what I do get is massive awakening in the next year, massive transformation, accelerated awakening. The snake will not tolerate sleepy, unconscious people. So nine is not only transformation and snake is transformation, the potential for, let's call it egoic death, because that's more likely, right? Now, for those who are choosing a path of remaining completely unconscious, that path looks a lot different. For those of us choosing a path of awakening, that path is expansion, acceleration, more personal empowerment, more expanded potential, the same stuff we've been talking about, reaching more and more masses, more and more freedom and liberation. A lot of that freedom and liberation from the so-called oppressive, suppressive, you know, fear, domination, manipulation game that we've been playing, the secret covert agendas associated with control. That what we're talking about is accelerated freedom through the awakening journey. So I don't know if this is too esoteric, because sometimes people want like what's really going to happen. But to me, when you start seeing that happen, what does that mean? More systems that are no longer working, crumbling. And at the same time, more systems that are serving the greater good coming up. So what's a great example? Okay, Western medicine starts like big pharma starts getting different parts of it start getting sued, but just as quickly, all kinds of new holistic remedies that might have been formerly suppressed or repressed coming out. Okay, you could say, okay, another example, more and more exposing of the fraud behind insurance companies, like you're seeing it in Florida, for example, insurance companies, the scam behind it being exposed, but now new kinds of insurance forms coming out. Like that's what's happening on a grounded level. More and more exposure of the corruption that was used to be called conspiracy, which is now just clearly not conspiracy, just extreme corruption being exposed that allows the people to reclaim their power and create as a people better quality services for the greater good of all. More and more of that happening. So the job of us as people is to be not afraid when those things are crumbling, but rather to celebrate that what was formerly not serving the greater good is no longer operating, less and less in the years ahead. So I could go on for a lot longer, but hopefully that makes sense, right? And I mean, I just say this last piece, if people are wondering, just look globally. This is really valuable stuff, right? Globally, let's go through the major systems so you get it. Financial, educational, food and water, medical and pharmaceutical, schooling, including colleges, universities, all across, media, which includes also entertainment. I'm missing one. Which one? Technology. Across the board, when you understand that the systems were set up globally with an agenda to control, dominate, and manipulate, secretly coerce, that take away free will choice of people, make them think they have no choice. You have to do this or else. You have to do this or else. That is secret covert agenda designed to take away free will. That is what is being eradicated over the coming years. And in the next year, that will be accelerated. So we will see it eyes wide open.
I think we are seeing that as well with I've just loosely kept up with what's happening with the Make America Healthy Again. So I think we're going into a very positive front in terms of the changes that are happening. And Lori,
Yes.
it's been a very enlightening conversation. It's been a pleasure on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We'll absolutely have to get you back on for a proper channeling and maybe some sort of experience. Where can people find you, and what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, well, again, thank you so much for having me too. It's been fun. You've been really awesome at giving me, opportunity to speak so broadly. Yeah, they can find me at my website at lorispagna.com. They can get, I know your people love DNA activations. They can get gifted DNA activation at lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA. They can learn more about their starseed family and their starseed origins at lorispagna.com/free gifts/starseed. And yeah, I also have a podcast. It's just starting. It's The Awakened Elevated Human. So yeah, I'm all over the place. YouTube, it's everywhere.
Amazing. Love
Yeah.
it. Well, everyone, go check out Lori. Her work is amazing. And thanks for joining on First Contact. If you liked today's episode, give us a like, share, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time.